In April of 1841, Silas Ruddle made an announcement that stunned even the most brutal plantation owners in South Carolina. He declared that his daughter, Catherine, a 28-year-old woman weighing over 260 pounds, would be placed under the complete authority of an enslaved man named Ezekiel Cross. Not as a nurse. Not as a companion, but as her master in every way that mattered, except on paper. White society in Gallatin County was scandalized, but none of them understood what Ruddle was truly doing, or what would happen to Catherine over the following months. By November, Catherine's body had changed in ways no physician could explain. 13 men were dead, and Cypress Grove Plantation was nothing but ash. So what really happened between an enslaved man and a plantation owner's daughter? And what did Ezekiel Cross do that terrified everyone who witnessed it? Before we uncover the truth, subscribe, hit the bell, and comment where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Spring arrived in Gallatin County with suffocating heat. The Coombe River crawled through low country, its black water reflecting Spanish moss that hung from live oaks like funeral shrouds. Rice fields stretched for miles, flooded, worked from dawn to dusk by enslaved people standing knee-deep in stagnant water. This was wealth built on suffering, prosperity extracted from misery, cruelty disguised as tradition. Cypress Grove Plantation sat on 800 acres of middling land. Its owner, Silas Ruddle, was wealthy, but not powerful enough. He owned 58 enslaved people, placing him comfortably above most men, yet far below the true elite. The families that mattered owned hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. Their names decided court cases. Their whispers destroyed lives. Silas wanted desperately to be one of them. He had married Elizabeth Yancey in 1812, gaining modest land and a respectable name. Elizabeth died the following year, giving birth to their daughter, Catherine. For the next 28 years, Silas raised her alone, while devoting himself entirely to ambition. Catherine grew up isolated, educated by tutors, kept far from other children. By adulthood, she was labeled unwell. Doctors diagnosed her with hysteria and nervous disorders. They prescribed laudanum and mercury-based medicines, treatments that slowly poisoned her. She suffered violent episodes. Screaming. Throwing objects. Once, she attacked her father with a letter opener, leaving a permanent scar across his hand. Gallatin County whispered with false sympathy. Poor Silas Ruddle, burdened with a mad daughter. None of them knew what Catherine had seen at age 12. None of them knew she wasn't mad at all. The letter arrived on April 7th. 3 pages of expensive paper, sealed with red wax. The mark was unmistakable, a scythe crossed with wheat stalks. The brethren of the harvest. 13 men who gathered in darkness. Men who believed blood strengthened the land. Men who mixed old European rituals with twisted spiritual beliefs learned from enslaved people, then used those beliefs to justify murder. Silas had been initiated in 1822. The letter informed him he was in debt, $12,000. An impossible sum. Repayment meant losing everything. But the brethren offered an alternative. A test of loyalty. Silas would publicly place his daughter under the absolute authority of one of his enslaved men for 1 full year. Total control. No interference. Complete humiliation. In exchange, his debt would vanish. Silas thought through the night, and at dawn he accepted. Ezekiel Cross arrived 3 days later. Tall, quiet, unmarked by the whip, his eyes met Silas's directly. Something enslaved men never did unless they wanted trouble. He had been chosen carefully. What Silas didn't know was that Ezekiel's wife and children, Sarah, Benjamin, and Ruth, had once belonged to him. Silas had sold them south 3 years earlier, not for need, not for profit, but to prove he could sever a family without hesitation. All 3 were dead within 18 months. Ezekiel had spent 2 years moving deliberately from plantation to plantation, gathering names, whispers, truths. When the chance came to be sold to Silas Ruddle, he took it, not for survival, for justice. When Ezekiel first entered Catherine's room, he found darkness, filth, and a woman barely holding herself together. But he also saw something the doctors had missed: mercury poisoning, laudanum dependency, years of deliberate suppression. He told her the truth, and Catherine believed him because she had never stopped remembering. Over the following weeks, Ezekiel weaned her from poison, rebuilt her strength, and listened as she described the cellar beneath Cypress Grove. The rituals, the ledger, the names. They planned quietly. When Silas left for Charleston in May, they went into the cellar together. They found the ledger, and they were caught. Silas offered Ezekiel a choice: join the brethren or die alongside Catherine. Ezekiel accepted. But it was a lie. 3 weeks later, during his initiation, they placed a young enslaved woman on the altar and handed him a knife. "Make the first cut," Silas said. Ezekiel took the blade and turned it on them. What followed was chaos. Fire, screams, blood, and then something the brethren never expected. Catherine returned. She had spent weeks gathering the enslaved people of Cypress Grove. 23 men and women descended into the cellar, armed with tools and rage sharpened by generations of suffering. None of the brethren survived. Silas Rutledge begged. No one listened. By dawn, Cypress Grove burned. The ledger burned with it. 13 powerful men died in what history would call a tragic accident. Catherine Rutledge was declared dead. Ezekiel Cross vanished, and the enslaved people scattered, carrying a secret no one would ever confess. Years later, bones were found in swamps, tunnels beneath the land, a coded journal discovered and lost. But stories remained. Stories of a plantation where the masters burned, of a woman who refused to forget, of an enslaved man who chose resistance over becoming a monster. Because power built on cruelty is never permanent, and some secrets, no matter how deeply buried, always find the light.